Greetings from a very sunny Bury. Yes, the weather is absolutely wonderful, and just to show you, I'm wearing the official t-shirt. But enough of that, let's get rambling around and have a look at the lovely little town of Bury. Being welcomed into the commemorative park by the Lancashire Fusiliers, there's a couple of, I won't say strange, but well-known landmarks. That one in particular that we can see just in the distance is, well, let's say a little bit of a folly. We'll have a look at that in a minute. Commemorating the East Lancashire branch of the Coastal Forces Veteran Association. And then there's this. Now, anyone who has driven past on the way into Bury will just do that. They'll tend to just drive past. But it's quite a remarkable edifice, which I suppose you would call it a folly. We'll go and see if we can find out anything more about it. It would appear it's just called the clock tower. I've noticed the clock is precisely correct, just twice a day. Some fine detail. All the memorial benches are dated. It would appear the clock tower was presented by a Henry Whitehead in memory of his brother to the town, together with the surrounding gardens. Nice little memoriam. And a nice little garden. Let's get on into the town. The Bury interchange, where the buses and trams terminate, they don't just stop. I mean, they do continue after their termination and go back to whence they came. It finishes really within very short walking distance of the market area and main centre of the town. So that's a very big benefit for Bury. And we're being welcomed to Bury Town Hall, which is not far from the little commemorative park that we saw. It's funny that Bury always causes some amusement because, you know, welcome to Bury Town Hall. Well, I haven't got a spade big enough. Nice detail on the building, well kept adornments. As you can see, the usual abuse of the English language, only available at pre-booked space. It's just simply a booked space, Bury Council. It's no need to be a pre-booked space. And the front of the town hall, or is it the back of the town hall? Well, anyway, it's the entrance, and it's got the lovely balconies for when His Majesty the King or other dignitaries come and have a wave from them. Ah, we appear to have found the Proles entrance, which is to the side. But typical council building from decades and decades and decades ago when first built. And round the other side is the Elizabethan suite, which I presume is a venue for socializing. This made me laugh over here. Sorry, silly sense of humor coming up. And just for completeness, the fourth side of this very large council office building. And there we have Bury College, a level centre, which means that if you take a packet of marbles in with you, none will roll off the table because it's a level centre. The name Bury always conjures up a little bit of amusement because if you say sort of Bury cats and dogs and Bury pensioners, it's not very life support friendly. That's just my sense of humour, I apologise. You're not allowed smoke on this, otherwise it will be a chew bacca. Sorry, I'll leave. Exit stage left. And just spied another of the town's follies. Let's go and have an investigation. Well, this very peculiar folly looks like a bit of a cake chucked on top of the church at the last minute. Belongs to the church of the parish of St. Marie and St. Joseph. It is Marie, M-A-R-I-E, and not Mary. There you are, just to prove I wasn't telling you pork pies. It seems to be opposite some other follies on the Manchester Road here, and that is one solicitation practice after the other, all the way down to the bottom. Next door to the folly, and this very pleasant building, possibly a townhouse once upon a time. Well, it would be a townhouse, we're in the centre of a town, and that has been attached and annexed to the rather magnificent Bury Library. The detail of the architecture is just fabulous. Judging by the weather-beatedness of these, they're a permanent display, those colour things. But I mean, just look at this. There's a lovely balcony up there, and we've got frescoes. Maybe one of them's called Al, I don't know. And then these ironwork lights. Columns, colonnades, frescoes, and even daffodils. What more could you want from a building? Absolutely fantastic, if I say so. I know I always say that about lovely buildings, but this is what you want to see, not these horrible modern things. And the other side of the library, which, again, wonderful frescoes, but this is the Bury Art Gallery. And quite a bit going on, actually, if you want to join in. Art classes, workshops, school groups, gift shop. You have to have a gift shop. A tea room. And opposite the art gallery, the Fusilier Museum. No, I kid you not, look. And outside the Fusilier Museum, I think it's fair to say, the most unusual plant pot you're likely to see anywhere. And I know you'd expect nothing else, but just look at how beautifully kept these little gardens are. And it's nice to see we've got tulips. Just a quick look at the memorial, the way it's so well kept. And then, pardon, we're going into the sun, but there's the little detail from the front of the museum. Oh, just realised as I walked past, they're called the Gallipoli Garden. Or it's called the Gallipoli Garden. Oh! And I see somebody famous from the town we can say hello to. Yes, it's none other than the late Victoria Wood, immortalised in bronze. And as if you didn't know about that absolute comedy genius, loved by everybody, even by miseries who didn't like comedy. And there's a little bit of the park. Oh, and there's another little monument. Let's go and have a quick look. Oh, it's a war, both World War memorial. That seems to be managed, well, not quite managed, by the Bury Unitarian Church. Come on, guys, get your acts together. Let's have this cleaned up and, you know. And opposite the museum, a couple of fine buildings, all set for reoccupation. The first one on the left here being a bank, well, a former bank. And again, one of those, they don't make buildings like that anymore type of buildings. I'll just whiz around, sorry for the speed, down to the bottom of the street. What we see here, very pleasantly, is that the old character, i.e. the architecture of the original buildings here on Silver Street, remain relatively unscathed, still in their original form. There's an unusual, looks like a miner's lamp helmet. Well, I suppose if you're in Bury, you have to have a funeral before you can bury. As the famous Charlie Veitch would say, it's the not allowed bar. Ah, and sure, you have to have a Murphy's. Cade Mila Fulcher. Pint of Guinness. Great food. Live sports. I read that too quickly and thought that it might be grinding insurance, which means that if you're a welder, you don't stand a chance at getting insurance. Plainly, they didn't insure themselves for going out of business. And at the top end of the town, more examples of very pleasant architecture from the past. Oh, I've just spied something I must yak to you about. Yes, I saw the name Robert Peel on this particular public house, next to the two tubs. I presume the two Crockett's are up the road. But the reason I mention Mr. Peel is, yes, Robert Peel. The man who started the police. The Peelers. He is from Bury. Just outside the Bury Parish Church. I'm not saying he's outside purposefully. I mean, that's where he's been put. He had no say in the matter because he looked at Medusa and was cementatified. And just like we saw in my previous video in Stalybridge, very proud of keeping up their memory to those who have given their lives in the Great Wars. And yes, appreciating a church is a church, but this is just a very pleasant one and quite large. Now, as we stand in front of the statue of Sir Robert Peel, are you ready for a bit of bracing of yourselves? Because we're heading to a movie set. Yes, nestled away behind the two tubs, but not two Crocketts, are you ready? Here we go. The Berry Detachment HQ. Now, if you've watched any serials, and I don't mean the appalling advertisements on TV for the likes of Kellogg's and their chocolate covered and sugar coated things, you'll have seen this particular building feature. Many a series uses it, and yes, quite impressive, I think. In fairness, it actually was Berry Castle, which was started off being built in 1649 by a chap called Thomas Pilkinson. So as you can see behind me, it looks very castleish. And here's an artist's impression of what it all looked like eons ago. That's just for context. And just below some of the original walling and fortifications from the castle, with a lovely smattering of civic pride, as you can see. Yes, why not dump your old cans and wrapping and corrugated papers in front of a very famous monument instead of using a bin? No point using a bin when you've got all this open space to litter. And the coat of arms of the Lancashire Fusiliers at the top of the old former Berry Castle. I wonder, are those gargoyles related to the ones we saw at the top of Rochdale Town Hall? Well, I sincerely hope it's with dignity and not a case of, oh, you're dead, get in the grave. I should put on the funny voice and say, there's a mood shot of the parish church, but I won't bother. The church is off something called the Wild. Don't know if it's Zach Wild or whatever, but it doesn't seem very wild to me. Well, you don't say, do you? Right, we're wandering down the aptly named Market Street because it goes to the market. As you can see, another fine old bank, but that harks back to the days when Bury was a very successful mill town. So of course it was reflected in the ability of the banks to open rather large branches. And yes, won't say anything about that. There's the Millgate Shopping Centre. It's like any covered shopping centre. It's quite big, but as you can see, no filming or photography. So I won't bother, because it's just a shopping centre. And why give the brands free publicity to the 3 or 4 people who watch my channel? And opposite the bank, another fine building. Hiya! Give us a wave! As I was saying before that gentleman interrupted me, a lovely fine old building there. Not too sure what it was connection with, but I might find out before we go. And of course it goes without saying that all towns have their own little, shall we say, not upmarket area for food and drink, and this seems to be it. This seems to be the Northwest's premier Scar Bar, but it has a sign which I think will appeal to many people. I love that. That's a good sense of humour, just like me. And another little folly in some nice little gardens just outside the bus terminus and tram terminus. And on the other side, we're just going to the sun for a second, and there's the Millgate Shopping Centre with still some of the nice old original architecture on the buildings. but this is what I mean when I said before that it's all so near the public transport hub that it's brought the town back to life. Far be it for me to be judgmental or cast aspersions. Who? Me? But I have noticed that, yes, the place is very busy, which is great to see, but it's Wednesday, Friday and Saturday are the traditional market days. But there seems to be an awful lot of people who, how can I put it this way, are far younger than me. They aren't tourists and they don't appear to be working. Now, anyway, as I say, I don't want to be too judgmental. Sadly, they've had to pull down the covered portion of the market because it was discovered with, I don't know what it was, hyaluronic acid or parabens or... I don't know what it was. Look it up on the internet. I'm just being lazy. So everything's transferred to the outdoor market. And we'll go and have a look inside the outside that's not outside, if you know what I mean. And it's just typical market hours, but as you can see, very, very busy. And the sort of wonderful products you'd expect at a market. Good and busy. In fairness, it's 11:30, but still, isn't that nice to see? And another market aisle, garden block to one side and Wyndham block to the other. As you can see, we're slap bang in the middle of it. And it's just a pleasure to the eye, really. Jeff Bezos, eat your heart out. Retail is still alive. I was going to make the stupid remark, a real market vibe, but of course there would be because it is a real market. It's just a glorious mix and match of everything. Huge bookstall and jigsaws. Oh, actually brand new ones, there's something you don't see. My trouble is in these sort of places is I have what they call cafe constipation. I just can't pass a cafe. Fish and meat hall going strong. Really very good, but on a day like today, if I'm going to go wandering around, I don't think I want to put any fish or meat in my bag as I wander, because by the end of the day, it'll just be, well, you know, they'll ask me to step off the bus politely. Or, well, they won't ask me politely, but I'll have to step off the bus politely. I may be wrong, but I do get the impression that they are actually putting one overall roof, which means that traders can get rid of these things. Goodness, it's cholesterol and saturated fat heaven around here. But smell is lovely, absolutely lovely smell. I think a little bit of over-enthusiasm with spelling here. Oh, that's a new one on me. Hand-pressed. Well, gosh. I mean, it really is a very large market, and my little sort of run-through doesn't do it justice to how big the place actually is. It's enormous. There we go. Voted best market in Britain. As they say, like anywhere, just a nice covered shopping centre, but quite big. And then if we swing round, it's from where we're coming from and what we're going to. And the rock shops, it's not shops for rock like Blackpool. You'll see later on anyway when I get over there. Quite a bit of wilding on the old car park here at Millgate. Very interesting. I always think it's, well, I'm just me being grumpy, but I know they have to build and pay for these things, but I always think it's a bit of a cheek charging people to park their car in order to come and spend money to keep these shops alive, paying rent and rates, and often paying these pension fund people a huge sum for the rents while they're at it. This is the Dwayne Johnson, sorry, I mean the Rock in Bury. It's just a complex of cinemas, multi-cinemas. There's got restaurants and the all-important shops. They'll go and have a quick wander around. I don't know if they intend to be a cheap mimic of Selfridges in the Bull Ring in Birmingham, but the metal covering just looks like they've used a load of tinfoil and stuck names on. And opposite the lovely parking shrubbery is the West Ivy. Now this is no connection with the main Ivy group, because for starters, well, they wouldn't let you in shorts showing off all the wonderful body art on your legs. cough, cough loudly. Sorry. And in the real Ivy, you've got to have beluga lips as part of the social influenza way of getting in. And the fire pit, I don't think that's a particularly welcoming name for a restaurant and cocktail bar. No, not my scene at all. And the Chinese buffet seems to be in direct competition with Pizza Express, which in turn next door has another fine establishment. Yes, Nando's, just what you need. You must have your Nando's. And where there's a modern looking shopping centre, you get a modern looking Primarché, naturally enough. It seems quite relatively new here, well, a few years, but very brutalist. And there's a rebel without a cause, namely the cause being retail, shopping and selling. Oh, Superdry, maybe that's Zanussi, the appliance of science. Always makes me laugh. People think Superdry is a fancy foreign brand when it was actually just, well, it might be fancy foreign as much as made in sweatshops in the Far East, but started by Julian Dunkerton or is it Dinkerton, can't remember his name, in Cheltenham. So it's as English as it comes, and yet people think, they perceive they're getting something oriental and posh. That's social media for you. And as we come in from the side entrance, apologies for the speed, this is the central area of the Rock. And again, more brutalist accommodation, flats. You can bet your life they cost a fortune, but would you want to live above all the noise? Fridays, Saturdays? Don't think I would. The range was the Debenhams, and then that went into administration. You've got the usual ones here, Duncan with no G, which is very suitable for local audiences. Sorry. Oh, and Lush, don't buy anything from them. They're bigots and racists. And Heavy and Metal, we've got a Heavy and Metal and more sort of bullringy type metalwork here. And there's an Ann Summers, but to be quite honest, she'd frighten me to death. Gosh, not the most eye-friendly image if you're selling those sort of products. Oh, Trespass. That's a great album from the Peter Gabriel era of Genesis. And as you can see there, all the regular suspects here. You can always tell that a town shopping centre that has a Pandora proves that it's got a little bit of life left in the town yet. And as we're exiting the Rock, we're going back up to and through the more traditional old part of Berries, not managing to miss Bob and Bertie, I think the name is. Going into administration, some of these large multinationals have left a big hole on the retail scene because they had such big premises. And that's looking up to, well, we came into the town much earlier on with the parish church at the very top, still maintaining the old building front facades, which I have to be honest, is nice to see. These little window columns are very fascinating. Oh yes, proper coffee. You're not having any of that fake coffee stuff that's made from tea bags. And in Rock News today, it was revealed by the post office that granite is, well, quite hard. This is the middle area of the old original part of the town that heads off up from the new Rock we've just been in. Although Bury overall does seem to be holding its own, in this section of the town there does seem to be a fair number of charity shops, which I'll be honest, I don't have any problem with, but there's just so many in a relatively short distance. Just looking up for a few moments as we walk back towards the parish church. It's nice to see that the, again, original architecture is still holding its own and hasn't been got rid of. Oh goodness, thank heavens for that, saved by the inability to spell phone correctly. Well, in my humble, nothing brave about it at all. You get it done, you look the same as everybody else. And there's where we've come from. And everybody's kung fu fighting. And we go just the top and find ourselves back where we started with the Peel statue and the parish church on my right, which has still not moved since when I first videoed it 3 hours ago. Crompton Street, which looks like a fairly more traditional street with a cobbled road. On the west side of the town we've got the, well, East Lancashire Railway, but it's actually the Transport Museum. You can't really see much, but I believe you can get steamificated journeys from here just locally out into the wilds of Lancashire. Again, very welcoming, no change given, penalty charges, and then you have to phone up and pay a commission to an intermediary if you want to park there. Mr. and Mrs. Berry and Mayor, if you want people to come to the town, may I suggest you instigate free car parking. It works wonders. And this is the entry to the Berry Transport Museum. It's managed by an ex-army man called General Safety. And what a pleasant walk down to the museum it looks to be. Lovely little wildflowers and, I presume, wild stuff. And no idea what they're called, but this thing, it seems, turns into this, which I have never seen one of those ever before. I potentially think it's a flower. Sorry. As our American friends say, regardless of whether it's animate, inanimate, gas, liquid, air or whatever, look, there's a whole bunch of them here. Why is everything bunched in America? Goodness, having come all the way down these very elongated steps, I suddenly realise there's a bus stop I could have waited at to not get a drive down. I know I'm being unnecessarily grumpy, but talking of bunches as I did before, just a few minutes ago about those flowers, you know who started using bunches all of a sudden is Lee Child and his Jack Reacher books. Now, Jack Reacher is very set in his ways, a bit like me, I suppose. He's a Neanderthal when it comes to IT and telephones. Now, there's no way that at sort of round about my age, he's probably in that region, you know, sort of 60. Well, that's the age he's portrayed by Tom Cruise, I suppose. But there's no way that the Jack Reacher character would suddenly, after all the books that have been written and all these years, start talking about bunches of gases and bunches of cows. It's just not natural. And it leads me to think that with the books being co-authored by Andrew Child, I think that's the brother of Lee Child, you think to yourself that Lee Child's input mustn't be all that much and we're being conned because, as I say, Jack Reacher just would not suddenly start talking about animate, inanimate and other objects that are bunches when there are existing actual words to describe a bunch of whatever it happens to be, if you get my drift. He's far too by the rules. Right, off my hobby horse, let's go down and have a look at the Transport Museum. Well, we've come along in and it seemed to be a bit deserted. We'll go and have a look anyway, let's see. And the old, I presume these are the original sort of, although they weren't for trams, I think they were called tram sheds. Yeah, must be joking. Do it yourself. Well, sorry about that, dear viewer. Built your hopes up. And it seems that entrance, there is none. Because it's closeted. Don't know where all the staff are, mind you, if it's closed. Are they locked in having a transport party? I don't know. Well, anyway, there's an old chuck wagon to have a look at. That's about it. Let's go. Yes, plainly this isn't a selective week during the year. And of course, that was covering, I never thought looking it up. My own fault. Well, sorry for that disappointment, but what can you do? I just left the introductory bit in because it looked a little bit interesting and the grounds on the way in were very well kept, and at least you could see the sheds. No idea what's behind them, but at least you could see the sheds. Well, I apologise, good burghers of Bury. I owe you an apology. It seems I've just been informed by somebody who, they wouldn't come on camera, but never mind, that there are up to 3 trains an hour going in some direction from the Bolton railway station here. It's called Bolton Bury, and they go somewhere, I don't know where to, but they're not of the steamificated variety for holidaymakers. They are for those of you who have your little handbags and suitcases and shopping, who actually know where you want to go. So there we go, learned something new every day, which I do every day, sadly. Well, that's it. Thank you for accompanying me on my little ramble around Bury. I have to say, it is so hot. I'm not complaining because we've had such lousy weather up to now, but thank you very much for watching, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye all.